Good evening. Welcome to Grand Blanc Township Board meeting for Tuesday, July 9th. If we could all rise for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, Clerk Robertson, could you call the roll, please?
I would be happy to, Mr. Supervisor. Trustee Hugo?
Here.
Trustee Fike? Here. Trustee Raritan? Here. Trustee White? Here. Treasurer Kilmer?
Here.
Myself, of course, I'm here. Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
7 members present, a quorum.
Thank you. And I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda. Motion by Ms. Hugo, supported by Dr. Raritan.
Motion by Hugo, supported by Raritan for the agenda. Trustee Raritan?
Yes.
Trustee Hugo?
Yes.
Trustee White?
Yes.
Trustee Fike?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer?
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Thank you. And now we will ask if there's any public comment this evening. And seeing none, bring it back to the board. And we will move to approval of the consent agenda.
Okay.
So I'll entertain a motion. Dr. Reardon makes that motion, supported by Mr. White.
Motion by Raritan, supported by White on the consent agenda. Trustee Fike?
Yes.
Trustee White?
Yes.
Trustee Hugo?
Yes.
Trustee Raritan?
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Under old business, our strategic plan update, we have on the agenda for this evening to review of our plan and also community survey questions. Good evening.
We have placed a copy of the questions that we've worked on for the community survey. Matt and I put these together. These are not the end result yet. We would like the board to review these. Some of the things that we put together on here, and we were working on this right up to the last minute here, so I apologize for not emailing them to you prior. Different things are just overall satisfaction with all of the services within the township, quality of life within the township. We ask about customer service, communication within the township, public services, the police and fire department, how everyone feels about their services, preferred method of communication, public works, transportation within the township, property maintenance, which would be code enforcement, parks and recreation, we hit that one, along with senior services for the community. So, and one of the big ones we have in here is talking about the millage because our millage will be up for parks and recreation. So if people want more amenities from our parks department, and then also investing possibly into a community center for the township. So we ask that if you have any ideas right now, please let us know things that you'd like to change. Otherwise, if you want to take some time, go through this, if there are specific things that you want to know about within the community that you want our community members to come back to us with, please let us know so that we can include that in the questions, and then we're going to take this into the consultants that are working on the survey, and they will put the final product together, and then we'll bring it back to the board.
Where's the list of stores that we want?
Oh, that Matt was working on that.
Yeah.
Trader Joe's is number 1 on the list.
Really, we want you guys to take a look at this, digest it over the next couple days if you can. Our plan is to hopefully have your feedback by Friday. just go ahead and email Melissa if you have any questions or modifications. Really think about how this fits into the adopted strategic plans for the next, 5 years, 10 years, the vision of what you're trying to obtain with this information. So yeah, if you could, next couple days, digest it, email Melissa with any questions, and we'll be submitting this to the company. Our plan is by this Friday to really get started with this survey and get the process going.
Dr. Reardon?
I do have a question for you. So under transportation,
Which page is that, Dr. Reardon?
page 3, section 14, and you have availability of public transportation. Now, there's not much we can do about that, so.
And that's something we can take off of there. So this template that we utilized was from one of the other communities, the 3 or 4 communities that this company presented to us. This was on the existing template. I realize there's not much we can do about public transportation. If that's something that we feel, we want to take out of there, that's fine. We're open to anything.
Because there's no way, if they're dissatisfied, there is nothing we can do about it.
Sure.
I mean, absent
Well-
getting with MTA,
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, we could get with MTA and,
Yeah.
but they control
issue,
it,
but-
we don't.
Oh, so we actually had a meeting with MTA. Our DDA did a couple weeks ago when we had our DDA meeting. And one of the things that they are looking at is more locally based transportation. So for example, in a lot of communities, Lyft, Uber, these type of things are readily available, but in smaller communities, they aren't. And so we don't see a lot of that in our area. So what they're looking at, and they're testing some of it in Fenton right now with the trolley-type train. I don't know if you guys have seen that out there or not. Some people think it's just a bar hopping type of transportation, but it's really not. It's going to senior centers, it's going to shopping areas, what have you. And so our DDA was talking about how do we, look at utilizing something like that on the local level, because not everybody's, accustomed to calling your ride or something like this. But it would be very handy, especially for some of the business community. If you're riding from Thorn Ridge and want to work, at Genesis or at one of the local restaurants or something like this, having locally based transportation would be much more feasible than trying to figure out which bus do I ride into Flint and then come back out on or what have you. So, the other thing to consider too is that this is going to be sent out on a scientifically random basis, right? And so we're going to also make sure that we're not, but the people that are doing this are going to make sure that all economic levels are equally surveyed, what have you. So while we may not be, some of these things are probably out of our control, like I see some of the downtown stuff. It could be beneficial to us to be able to say, hey, you know what, MTA, we have a lot of interest with public transportation here, or you know what, our people don't think that public transportation is a high priority. So, I mean, it may work to our advantage, to be able to have that information to say, you know what, we got a lot of people who think that we need to beef that up, so maybe we should pay attention. I don't know, I'm just playing devil's advocate here in terms of why we might want to keep some of these things on here that we don't necessarily, we don't perform that service ourselves, but we have input on those services maybe.
Right.
Marginal. I mean, it's
Yeah.
marginal. But
And I'd be glad to,
What do you guys think?
let's hear.
whatever you guys like, I'm okay.
No, that's a good point, and that's something to consider, because the longer we make the survey, the less likely we are to have people complete the whole thing probably too, so. Yes, Joel?
Which is my comment. I know you worked hard on this. You did a nice job, but I almost think it's a little bit too long. I mean, how long do you think that's going to take to fill this whole thing out? 20 minutes, 15 minutes? And people don't have time. People are really time starved.
It could. The recommendation that the company gave is that the survey would be around 30 questions or so. So all of the templates they had
Yeah.
averaged 30 to 35 questions. If you do feel it's too long, sure, we can scale it down a bit.
Streamline it a little bit, make it a little less time consuming so that people can fill it out, but they don't have to spend,
Okay.
So the company, they do hundreds of these a year probably. I was in on the meeting with them. One of the things that they do, just so everybody's aware, is that they have a set number of these that they want back, right? And, to meet their threshold of having this reach some kind, I forget what they call it, but basically, in statistics, there's a certain percentage you need to have it be scientifically solid. And if they send this out and they don't get the responses, they're either contacting them again or they're moving on to other people that fit those categories. So it's their job to reach that level. And if we've got 35 questions, they may have to reach out to a few more people if the initial ones don't bring it back because they're like, I don't have time. Well, then we're going to check with some other people. The other thing is that this is going to be available to everybody to fill out in the township. They may not go into the scientific mix of looking at, what the scientific group, the randomly sampled group was surveyed, but we will have the information from the general public on how they felt about these things.
And a lot of this template was kind of the boilerplate template that they've established, and they've kind of proven the scientific method on it.
So they've done other similar surveys and have found that this is
Correct.
okay
We
lengthwise.
specifically asked them what is their target number of questions, and it came in around 30 was what they recommended.
Part of it, it's kind of self-selection because the people that are interested in the township are probably who we want filling this out, right?
Right.
And the people that say, oh my gosh, they're asking my opinion on this stuff. Oh my gosh, I got to fill this thing out, right? And so I think, the people that are interested in the future of the township and what we offer, they'll be thinking, hey, this is directly affecting where I live, as opposed to getting a survey about XYZ product that, you know what, they aren't paying me enough to fill this thing out. But with this, I think, people, if they're invested in their community, or which they are if they're living here to a certain extent already, but when they get this thing, they're going to be thinking, hey, I have a chance to affect where I live here. I think I'm going to spend a few minutes and fill it out. I might be wrong, but the people who say, I don't have time to have an input on my township, it's like, well, maybe they're not the people that we should be asking. So there might be some self-selection there too of people that, don't want to fill it out and really don't care what they're going to move in 2 years anyway. So you guys do what you want, right? So I don't know, that's a couple of my thoughts, but.
And then before we send this out, whatever we agree to, are we going to say, hey, everybody, we're sending out a survey, or how are we going to tell people?
Yeah, the plan for that is we'll probably announce it via social media. It's actually already in the newsletter that came with the tax bill, for people to look for it. So social media, website, we can even send out an email to the people who have subscribed to our website, just to let them know to look for it. But we will let people know what's coming.
And then from a board perspective, will we use the results to lead us in future decisions? If the survey said they want more for police or whatever, that we should think about that, as we move
I think
forward.
that's part of the idea behind this is that, when we sit down, assuming that we are reelected here.
Yes.
When we sit down to look at the strategic plan for the next 4 years is what is it that we want to accomplish? And, rather than us just relying on our intuition of what we think the community wants, we're going to have some data that says, hey, you know what, we thought that this was kind of the direction that people wanted to go in, but actually the numbers both for the randomly sampled group and the overall township response shows that, this is the direction we need to be going in. Dennis, you have some thoughts? You went through this before with a municipality.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that, will you use it? That's really up to the board, but we used it a lot in prior municipality because when somebody's asking you, there's always competing interests for a fixed amount of funding that you have for discretionary funds. What are you going to do with it? And so when somebody gets here and they say, hey, I really want to build, whatever that may be, why don't you build a community pool? Being able to go to the survey results and be able to say, well, to be honest with you, we asked some of those questions in the survey, and what we found out is that 56% or 64% or whatever the number is, and it is broken down, like you can research it, so demographically, what's important to people by demographics. If you decided that, for example, that maybe it's housing and you wanted some questions in here about, is there truly a missing, middle housing in Grand Blanc Township? And if there is, what should we do about it? What kind of program should we adopt to assist in that? Maybe you want questions about rental housing and what are the concerns with rental housing? Is it upkept? Should we have a rental inspection program in Grand Blanc Township? All of those questions are available that you can change right now. That's what they're saying over the next few days. We like to finalize it and get it out. But if you just shoot us some ideas to say those things, and then it's up to the board to use it. But I think you will, because I think when you see the results that you get back from it, being able to go back, you'll have some that can just be in a visual form and some graphs, and you'll be able to say either they, support it or, are against it. But you're looking at those percentages of the vast majority of people support the idea that you expand parks and recreation offerings, for example. But then when you go back and look into the actual demographics of it, I think that's really telling, and you start really breaking it down by income level, by neighborhoods, because they will identify. It also lets you stack up how you are benchmarked against the region, against the nation for similar sized municipalities. So when somebody's asking, well, how well are you guys faring, being able to have that conversation with confidence with residents is to say, well, Grand Blanc Township actually fares very, very well compared to our region. When we look at the resident satisfaction with our first responder services or with our police department, like all municipalities, you spend a lot of money on police and fire, right? Being able to share somebody that there's tremendous satisfaction, so you're getting a good ROI on that spend. So I think you're going to find out how often you use it will surprise you, because it's not just a one and done. It's not just to read, oh, this is nice, review it, and then maybe use it with the next time you sit down to create a new strategic plan for the next 4 years. I think you'll be surprised how often you reference it when somebody's asking you, say, well, you know what, let me pull this up, or even you can do it on a mobile app. Let me pull this up and let me explain to you why we made the investment that we made. It just provides support for your decisions. It helps provide better informed decisions, fact-based decisions, right?
One of the things, that I'm finding is that, I got all these great ideas for the township that you guys should do. Oh, yeah? What are they? Well, and they go through the list of, and I let people know, we don't have any shortage of ideas. What's really challenging for the board is prioritizing which of those things. We can put all our eggs into one basket and say, let's all put our money towards this and forget about subdivision street paving, forget about splash pad or new playgrounds, but let's put it all into this form of recreation here. And, well, we don't want to do that. Do you want a millage for it? No, I don't want to do that. Do you want to take it from police or fire? No, I don't want to do that. Okay, but you want us to focus all our funds over there, or a lot more. We can't print money, so we got to prioritize. And I think that's where the survey helps, is prioritizing. I mean, once we explain to people, we do have a finite amount of money, unless we want to just keep raising taxes, and or raise them at all. So I think, the whole idea is help us to prioritize the money we do have. And it is limited, right? So I think that's where I'm looking for this to help, is showing people that we're basing some of our prioritization on what the public actually wants. What is it, Dennis, that saying that a pirate takes the crew where they want to go, and a captain takes the passengers where they want to go?
Right.
And so this is about being, good captains of a ship, or good stewards of a ship, and taking people where they want to go, as opposed to just where the pirate wants them to take them. That, no, we're going to put all our energies into this project here, and forget about all the other stuff the township has, but you know what, this is my pet project, and this is where we're putting all our resources. So I think that's part of the background behind this survey is let's get some, you know, data-driven decisions. So,
Just one last question.
absolutely.
Are they gonna provide a letter of, that you'll be anonymous, anonymity to the respondent?
Right, yeah, so the initial data set that they're going to send out, they're going to select, you know, a geographic representation of the entire township and sending out a letter explaining what we're looking for, what.
Be anonymous.
The respondents will be anonymous, correct, yes. Yes, they'll be anonymous.
I'm worried about you getting one, Jude.
It's blinded. There's a tracker, there's a number on these surveys, right? Because they have to, what they're trying to guarantee for statistical significance is that they have reached every neighborhood or every quadrant of the township. So there's a tracking number on there, and they'll have it listed right on there. This number is purely for tracking purposes. It doesn't track back to you, where your information could be released, and it will never be included in the final report. But if we're not getting, say that we got 300 responses back, but they're all from the south end of the township, then it's never going to reach the statistical significance that they want to deliver. They're going to then continue to hammer the folks who they sent the surveys out. And I don't remember what they send out, like 2,500 surveys or something. And then they have to get that X number back to reach that significance. So they will continue to follow up. They will contact the people. They'll send a postcard. Hey, you got a survey, you know, here's a QR code, fill it out online if you're more comfortable. There's, you know, you can just phone us in and you can provide your responses over the phone and we'll track it for you if you don't want to take the time to fill it out. So there's a lot of ways for folks to fill out the survey, but they will continue to do it. And my experience with this prior was we ended up having way more than they expected to get back. And I think it was just people who were invested in the community, right? I would be surprised if we don't have the same success here in Grand Blanc Township, because all you have to do is go to the Grand Blanc Residents Uncensored page and you'll find out that people really want to share their opinion on many operations of the township.
Yeah, I think they said they send out about 2,500 and they need about 400 or so to get within that confidence interval, so.
I think with the master plan, we had over 900 respond.
We did.
So if we are looking for 400, I think shouldn't have too much problem hitting that maybe. So, okay, anything else on Joel? Go ahead.
When do you expect to have the results, or, you know, give me a ballpark?
Yeah, 4 months, 4 to 5 months or so was about the
fall.
timeline.
Already. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Matt and Melissa. Moving on to new business. The board will consider a motion to authorize the supervisor and clerk to approve the collective bargaining agreement with the Michigan Association of Firefighters.
What's being passed down, I really wanted to have the full
Already have one.
collective bargaining agreement contract for you this evening, but it hasn't come back from Labor Council yet. But what this is this is what all of the changes that were approved by the MAFF Local 1137 part-time firefighters and the ones that we agreed to are presented in concept to you guys at the last meeting. But this shows where the wages went, shows that the contract is a 3-year agreement, going to go through June 30th of 2027. What we did in those wages, we told you when we went into it, we wanted to get them up into that 90th percentile. We were way behind in our market survey of like communities, comparable communities. We made significant strides to get there, but in order to accomplish these wages, you'll see some of the ones below it. Officer pay and all-call stipends were replaced with the funds going into the wages. The pension retirement for these part-time used to be like $2 for every time they went on an all-call run. That would go into basically a 457 account. Not all of them had signed up for it. It was probably cost us more to manage than what it was worth to these folks. We've eliminated that and put the funds into the wages. We also allow them to participate in the 457. So if they are concerned and want to put money away for retirement, they can participate in our 457 plan just with no employer contribution. One of the things they asked for was an increase in the safety equipment, safety shoe boot allowance. It was $150 annual. We moved it to $200. It's a max of $600. It does roll over. It can never be more than $600. But we are going to set it up with one vendor, so they have to book it through a vendor, then it has to be approved by the chief or deputy chief to move forward. That way we control, do they have money in their account, to move anything forward? And then there's a specified list of items that qualify that they're allowed to purchase from that vendor. The shift adjustment really is allow the chief, instead of a full duty shift of 8 hours, he has the ability to change that to cover 4 hours if somebody else is picking up 4 hours that wasn't in there before. They have to be signed up for at least 2 shifts per month in order to remain in good standing. The all-call is a 5% all-call requirement, including those on shift, are measured on a 6-month basis. It means that every time an all-call goes out, which basically means all hands on deck, come on in, we have a fire, we need as many firefighters as possible, they have to make at least 5% of those. And that's why they're part-time firefighters. They have jobs during the week, they're working out of town, whatever, but we still have to have not just the guys who are on our shift. And then 80% training requirement measured on a 3-month basis. They have to attend 80% of all available trainings. We look at it every 3 months, and if they don't, there's consequences. It was important for us to do not only because we want to have really well-trained firefighters, but also because with the new standards, the state of Michigan requires that our firefighters are trained, and this guarantees that we stay on top of that. We also can expand our training opportunities, and we have many times for their ability to make up training, but we're trying to tighten that up. We looked at the discipline retention, and we made some changes to that, which still fall well in line with what we wanted to accomplish. Promotion policy is not in the contract, but it's really just a policy where they get 1 point. They used to get a half a point for every year of service. Now it's 1 point. In the end of the promotion process, it always lands on the fire chief's recommendation of who takes that promotion. So we do there's a verbal portion where they get interviewed. They have to take a standardized test that's graded outside. There's a interview portion where, depending on what level they're going for, how that's made up with the fire chief, outside chiefs, or with internal other officers. And then the bottom line, like I said, is that the chief determines who moves forward, even though with all the point values and everything else. We think that was very good. The public events is that they're not required to attend public events more than 3 hours in a day unless they agree. Some of that is because we put on the big community events, and it's hard for these guys to take a full shift in there. So the idea was we can break it up into smaller shifts. It was important to our guys, so it was important to us. Seniority before didn't get spoken to in the collective bargaining agreement. Now it does. It'll be used for a lottery for guys hired on the same date. That becomes important if they're asking for vacation time or things like that, where they, who got started. The residency requirement, 20 miles. Any current employee outside the requirement are grandfathered, but the idea is having firefighters that are within 20 miles. We bounced around a lot on this. It used to be much tighter. We expanded it through a letter of agreement a few years ago to make sure we had enough firefighters. We think that 20 miles is a very good range. They can still make all calls in a 20-mile radius from the boundary, and it was pretty much what we could find standardized. I think we had one firefighter maybe who potentially lives just outside the 20-mile radius, which we would grandfather in. Bulletin boards, that's for the union at each station, no problem there. the EAP for our Employee Assistance Program. We have one, and one of the things that we found out talking through this process is that because of the very nature of the work that our first responders do, sometimes our Employee Assistance Program, they don't feel meets their needs from some of the traumatic experiences that they go through and the things they see in the line of duty. So we've already started working on trying to find expanded resources to make available for these guys, so that, I mean, we encourage them. You know, the board approved and authorized all the gym equipment out at station number 2 when we did the remodel there. We're building in, you know, physical fitness room in station number 1, but we need to take care of mental fitness as well. And some of these guys, they see just such traumatic stuff, it impacts them so deeply that we've agreed as an employer to continue to evaluate and improve those options. We've already made significant progress, I'm happy to say, on the direction we're heading in for that. And we'll be announcing soon. There's one of the full-time firefighters has been doing some outreach and has put together a program that we're going to pull off in October. Both police and fire will be invited to it, and it's bringing some guys who are retired police officers who talk about how you deal with that kind of stress and emotional stress that these guys go through. Safety meetings was just our language cleanup, and then you see a variety of language cleanup. A lot of that was changing. They used to be represented by AFSCME. They switched to the Michigan Association of Firefighters last year. So not a lot of impactful changes going through the whole thing. Primarily has to do with reducing some of the stipends and other things we were doing and putting it in wages. I can tell you that this does put us in the 90th percentile of the range of our competitive fire departments. So I'm very pleased with the contract. I believe the union was very pleased with the contract. According to the business agent, we look forward to moving forward the next 3 years. But with that, I will be happy to send out the full language when we get it. But these are the things that were updated in the language. And we need a motion for the supervisor and clerk upon receipt of that contract to execute it along with the MAFF representatives.
You're making the motion, Dr. Reardon? Okay, motion by Dr. Reardon,
Motion by,
supported by Ms. Hugo.
supported by Hugo on item 8A. Trustee White? Yes. Trustee Raridan?
Yes.
Trustee Fike?
Yes.
Trustee Hugo?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer?
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Thank you. Item B, the board will consider a motion to renew VM Microsoft 365 email backup for 1 year in the amount of $3,993 and authorize the superintendent to execute all related contracts and documents.
So this is really within my spending authority, but I was on vacation last week when Nathan put this on the agenda. He wasn't sure if I was going to be back for this meeting, and I could have just approved this had I been here, but since I wasn't, he really wanted to get it approved. It's really email backup, and this is just a renewal of the existing agreement. We just need a motion so that we can move that forward for 1 year.
I'll make the motion, supported by Mr. White.
Motion by Bennett, supported by White. Item 8B. Trustee Hugo?
Yes.
Trustee Fike?
Yes.
Trustee Raridan?
Yes.
Trustee White?
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer?
Yes, sir.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
7-0, motion passes.
Okay, future agenda items. Anything,
So
Mr. Lemata?
in the strategic plan, the board agreed to do a review every 6 months, January and July, basically. We are kind of coming down for the end of this really 4-year plan, although we didn't really adopt it until, probably about 3 years ago. But it's that time to do that full review about what you want to do. Obviously, the recommendation would be in January of 2025. The then seated board would be starting to work on their next 4-year strategic plan. But this would give you the opportunity, and I think we should avail ourselves that opportunity, just to review, again, successes, where we're at, where we still need work, because that might help frame our focus for the next 6 months, but also do those things need to be included in your next strategic plan moving forward?
Sounds good. Any concerns, thoughts? Okay. Anything, Dr. Reardon, under board reports? Ms. Hugo? Mr. Kilmer? No. Clerk Robertson?
Mr. Supervisor, yeah, there was a mention about the process for dealing with garbage
pickup.
complaints and recycling and yard waste. It's been a while since we talked about this subject, but let me just take a moment to say that when I think I've mentioned this before, but it's worth
Pull the
repeating.
microphone.
Yeah,
just to
sure.
make everybody-
That I never knew that there were so many different rules for how you place your garbage on the curb until I got this job, and learned that the clerk's position involved dealing with these issues. I'm happy to report that over the 3.5 years, the number of complaints that we've received has gone down precipitously. And the reason for that is because I give credit to my staff, and particularly Michelle Didolf, who has been aggressive in dealing with issues when they arise. And the fact of the matter is that when a call comes in, if there's a concern on any of those subjects, it's immediately dealt with. Either I take the call or she does. We immediately contact our intermediary between Emterra and ourselves. It is true that Emterra has an 800 number, but that 800 number services all of the communities that Emterra provides service for. And my experience and what I tell people when they call is, when an issue arises, call us immediately. And what we do is we immediately send out an email or a text message to Mr. Garman, and he oftentimes responds immediately or within that day. And when the instructions I've given to staff and what I do myself is I instruct people to leave the items on the curb, that it will be picked up before the end of the day. If for any reason it's not, then they're to call me first thing in the morning, and we will address it on an individual basis. What we've done is we've set up a protocol where, first of all, in the spring and summer months, the days are longer. The volumes are heavier because people are more active, more busy. They're putting more stuff on the curb. In the fall, of course, the yard waste is more prevalent, obviously because of leaves and such. But the fact of the matter is that the days are longer, and so they're out longer. It's been explained to me and to our staff that sometimes the trucks get full and they have to go to the landfill and basically they stop and then they pick up where they left off. And people see that and they wonder, well, maybe they picked up my neighbors, but they didn't pick up mine. Well, there's a possibility that they're coming right back and they're going to pick up where they left off and finish the route. And if something is missed, we're on top of it as quickly as possible. And my goal is to make certain that one way or another, everything that needs to get picked up should be. And it does.
You do a great job with it.
Thank you.
I think a couple of things real quick, though, that when people see that maybe something's thrown in the garbage, there are things that people put in their recycle bins that are not recyclable. And so sometimes those things are dumped in the garbage just because, guess what? You're putting garbage or things that are unrecyclable in your recycle bin. I guess they could leave it at the curb, but a lot of times I think they might pick it up because.
Well, there's a process, if I may, Mr.
Yes.
Supervisor, there's a process where the item can be tagged and an explanation given for why it wasn't taken.
Right.
Or, as I mentioned a moment ago, there are rules for everything, for what you can put on the curb and how you can put it. There's rules on the recycling, there's rules on the
And these
on the
aren't
yard
just
waste.
these aren't just our rules. They're probably state
Well,
statutes.
they're driven.
Some of it.
They're driven by the specifics of the contract that we have with Emterra. Those specifics in the contract are driven by labor agreements because they have to protect their employees' safety, or
state
they have
statute.
provisions that are dictated by the landfill that they place the refuse in. In this particular case, it's the one up in Montrose. And so there's specific reasons for all of this. But the bottom line to all of it, in terms of what I would say is this, is that do not hesitate to call. Your concern will be acted upon immediately by myself or a member of my staff, and we will get it addressed. And by doing this, by following this protocol and these methods, we have, like I said, significantly reduced the number of calls that we've received. Many will remember the challenges we had during COVID when it seemed that the phone was ringing off the hook, and that was a unique situation for a period of time, but we are reaping the benefit, I believe, of the work that we've done to address those complaints. And like I say, I give credit to Michelle and Reagan in my office who have addressed these issues along with myself. And there you go.
Thank you.
Did last week's 4th of July holiday impact this week's garbage collection?
Well, no, because 4th of July was on a Thursday, which was the day before.
So no, it's a
No,
regular
it was-
day.
It was a regular day, like any other
This
day.
week will be on a regular day.
This will be on a regular day, yes.
Thank you.
Wednesday.
I forget sometimes.
No problem.
That's okay, Joel. That's what I'm here for. All right, well, very good, Mr. Supervisor. That's all I
Thank you.
have.
Thanks. Mr. Fike, anything? Mr. White? So just real quick with regard to one of the things that everybody's looking forward to is Cook Road construction between Embry and Holly Road, and they assure us that they will be starting construction this year. And it will be this month is what we've been assured, so hopefully sooner rather than later for most people, right? But on the other note too, I think, Grand Blanc Road is progressing well from what I see from the road commission, and it'll be nice to have that reopened, and who knows, maybe it'll reopen while they're doing the work on Cook, and we'll have another east-west, availability besides kind of sneaking through both those roads with one lane closed. Mr. Lemata?
So a couple things. First, shout out to Parks and Recreation for their Red, White, and Brews community event that was held 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago. Really good time. Had included a 5K race, DJs, some door prizes, food trucks. Just so many positive comments from that thing. And again, just once again, the Parks and Recreation team, the crew, the maintenance staff, Assistant Superintendent Matt Kimmer, they just knocked it out of the park. It was so much fun. Just a really awesome event. In fact, my wife said, even though she made me do the 5K, that it was the best event that she's ever attended that we've been in Grand Blanc Township. So it really was a ton of fun. So those of you who missed it, look for it next year because that was really awesome. But Matt, congratulations to your team. Make sure you pass along our gratitude. There were so many positive comments from that, and then people who said that they wish they had known about it. So one of the questions you'll see in our survey is asking how was the best way to communicate, because we got to figure out how we reach more people. But what a cool event. The other thing is it's budget season, and that means it's July, so our budget season started now. My letter went out. Those of you officers of the board who have staff and have budget responsibility, you saw the email come out today to give you guys the heads up that the process has started. Finance Director Kathy Sostak will be putting the budget packets together that'll go out by next Monday for sure. They've got till August to get them back into me. We'll start our meetings between all the department heads and myself, and it will be delivered to you. I think September 1st ends up being on a Sunday or something, so we'll have it to you on that Friday to make sure we're complying with the requirements of the state, that you receive it at least electronically. Your meeting on that following Tuesday, we'll have the hard copies for you, and the process will start all over. That means as we look forward to 2025, if there's anything that the board would like to include that we haven't typically included, there's some changes, there's some things that you think we need to invest more in, there's things we should invest less in. We can take that feedback between now and September 1st when that budget gets delivered, but be thinking about that if there's specific programs that you think we need. There's a changing shift in the board's philosophy about any of the discretionary funds that we use. Now would be the time to share that information with us as we formulate that budget plan over the next 6 weeks before we deliver it to you. And finally, I have asked for a closed session because as much as it felt good to have you guys agree that we are done with the Michigan Association of Firefighters, that just means tomorrow morning I start negotiations with our full-time International Association of Firefighters. We got 2 full days planned for Wednesday and Friday of this week, and then we'll add more dates as we move forward. But I need to share a little bit of information with you and ask you for some direction this evening if you agree.
Okay. Just a couple of quick things before we do that, if we could, Dennis. One is that also, yeah, a great event, Parks and Rec. Also coming up on the 20th is the Fill the Field, which is a event for the fish of Grand Blanc, which in talking, well, actually, Ms. Smith was here a couple weeks ago and mentioned that basically I think they've increased fourfold how many people are coming to their doors for food. So great event coming up on the 30th.
What is that called again, Mr. Supervisor?
Fill the Field, and it's going to be on the 20th, which is a Saturday, right, out at Bicentennial. So look at the Facebook page for Grand Blanc Parks and Rec, and you'll see all the details there. One other thing, too, that we're doing is tomorrow there's a couple of meetings here at the Township with regard to neighborhoods that are interested in special assessment districts for their paving. There's 2 specific neighborhoods that wanted to meet to talk about this and find out how to do it. Those meetings are going to take place here and over at the fire department building, just so we can, at the police community room and in this room here. And we will have individuals, representatives from the road commission as well as the township. And the one that's going to be held here, I believe, is Hillcrest subdivision. It will be an informational meeting, but we are going to actually live stream it and record it. And I think, one of the things that Mr. Lehman and his team have worked out over the past 6 months is a detailed step-by-step policy on what do I do if I want to get my streets paved? And it's a very clear outline for residents on what they need to do. That'll be presented, but we're going to also videotape tomorrow night's meeting so that we'll have that available to show people, or have on our YouTube channel or website, wherever, that people can go to and watch if they're interested in what the process is for getting a special assessment district. So I think both those will be very helpful for helping our subdivisions to figure out what it is, what is the process for getting their streets paved. So you don't have to go through the school of hard knocks, right, Sarah? Okay, so, Mr. Laddie, anything before we, okay? Sir. I'm going to make a motion that we go into closed session or to discuss labor negotiations or union contract, supported by Mr. Fike.
Motion by Bennett, supported by Fike. Trustee Raridan?
Yes.
Trustee Hugo?
Yes.
Trustee White?
Yes.
Trustee Fike?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer?
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
7-0, motion passes. We enter into closed session
Okay.
at 6:47 PM.